welcome to UC Weekly News. I'm your host, David Danto, and joining me is my partner, Dave Michels. How you doing, Dave? You're very yellow today.
Yellow, and I'm drinking my orange soda, my naranja. What is it? Naranja laranja. That's there you go. Um, so
They
citrus,
don't have regular Coke or
citrusy today.
Pepsi. They don't have Coke or Pepsi
Oh,
in
sure they do. Sure they
Portugal.
do. Always,
Ah,
always buy local. ABL.
okay. So I've got InfoComm coming up in a couple of weeks, and I thought maybe we would have a quick chat about what's going on in the industry. I know I've been to a lot more of them than you have, and I think you're going to miss this year's. But we've got some interesting news already starting to cross
Yeah,
the.
so I want to be a little clear about that because we did InfoComm together last year. I think it was in Denver last year, as I
No,
recall.
no, last year's Orlando.
What was in Denver? Oh, that was CDA.
CDA,
That was
right?
the
CDA,
okay.
which I'm
Yeah,
doing
okay.
again this year with the AI chefs this year.
That's okay. That's right. I do enjoy InfoComm. I've been to several InfoComms, the last couple, as I recall. Uh, we did ISE earlier this year. I really like ISE. Uh, ISE, of course, is in Barcelona, and it's got that European flavor. And some of the largest,
Hmm.
I'm going to say booths, but I should say stands um, in the industry. But I decided not to go to ISE InfoComm this year, partly just because I'm trying to reduce some of my travel. It's just a little too far to keep on flying over that Atlantic.
Well, you
So
made a very good point. I'll interrupt you just for a second. When we first started working together, that a number of the other analyst firms that we know, when they have five analysts, they send five analysts to a conference, and we just are working a little bit more intelligently, where we can like separate and cover two things at the same time.
Well, I definitely agree with that second point. I don't know if that's more intelligently or not, but definitely agree with that second point. And so I'm going to take great pride in not risking my life in another flight. I mean, God, there's like not a day goes by where you don't see some sort of flight headline. But anyway, but InfoComm, the thing that I noticed about InfoComm last time we were there is it definitely is your show. I mean, it was like walking around with you. I felt like every 10 feet somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, Dave, that's Dando," and you know everybody in that at that event. How many InfoComms have you been to?
Oh, I just got back from NAB, which I had figured out was about my 49th NAB. I haven't been to InfoComm as many times, but we're definitely over 30 years, attending just about every year. I might have missed one or two, but it's been something I've been, and I participated in it a lot more than I have in the past. I participated more in it in the past, where I was presenting and creating entire conference programs and tracks, and then the leadership of InfoComm and Avixa changed, and they said thanks, but no thanks. This year, I've been invited back to present, so it's interesting. It's been a kind of a whole round robin trip, but yes, it is a show where I know a heck of a lot of the people, and I'm very pleased to run into as many as I do, and upset that I
And, and,
can't
and
spend
most
time with
and most
everyone.
of that 30 years you've been on the vendor side. Is that correct, or is that inaccurate?
No, that's actually not accurate. It's I'm one of the few unicorns that have been an end user and a reseller and a consultant and now an analyst. So I've actually taken the industry from every side, from what it's like to buy and put in these things, to use them, to recommend and design them, and now to talk about them and analyze them for where they fit in the industry. So it's a very rounded approach that I don't think that many people in the industry have.
It is well, yes, okay. So let's go into that a little bit. So as you walk through that conference, um, how has your reaction evolved or changed over the past, few years?
It's a great question to think about. Infocom's keynote used to take place the day before the show opened, and it was always a person of interest, an astronaut or somebody who's written a book or a magician or somebody who's talking about things. It was never really all that important to the industry. It was just a good, public speaker that was of interest to the community. And
Yeah.
this year specifically, we're seeing a major change. The same year that Microsoft didn't go to Enterprise Connect, and Cisco didn't do a keynote at Enterprise Connect, they're both now doing keynotes during the show of InfoComm, with Ilya Bookstein doing it on Wednesday, and Espen Loberg from Cisco doing it on Thursday. So clearly, either InfoComm intentionally or the industry just by happenstance has decided that this is where the audience has now moved to for those presentations for one reason or another, which is a major change in the show, a major change in the way you're looking at it.
I think that's a change in general. We've got, um, I don't know how much time you spend watching YouTube, but I spend a lot of time, and I find it strange because, there's so much good content out there that and I can't, well, it's Sunday. I'm going to listen to this guy's podcast, the weekly podcast. And the fact that everyone can create a show and put out content, we don't need to hear from these celebrities anymore. What we do want to hear is from our industry leaders and, doing demos and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of a bit of a change the way we just consume stuff. Where would you catch an astronaut or something before? Now you can catch one anytime you want. So,
Well,
so
yeah, go ahead. The key though is that I would have spent all 3 days of the show on the expo floor. I would never have gone to any of the, other than a session or two that
yeah,
I might have presented. I want to spend the time with the vendors. And now I have to look at it as an attendee and say, no, you know what? I got to divide my time. Some of these things I
yeah.
really need to hear.
But the problem with those two keynotes that you mentioned, Microsoft and Cisco, is that they're too happy now. They like each other. And I liked it, what was it, 10 years ago when Rowan was, pulling punches and Zig from Microsoft was kind of, take that Rowan and, throwing mud at each other and a little bit of debate. Now you get to hear these keynotes, you just hear about how everybody's so happy and great and everybody gets along. It's no fun. I want some more controversy.
Well, these vendors are. This is, I actually had this discussion online recently with Ilya in the comment section of LinkedIn. If you don't read the comment section of LinkedIn, you're missing great entertainment. But he and I were talking about. I think that for years our industry has been talking about these mythical rooms that need to be built out. The 80-90% of rooms in the world are available to have equipment, and I just think that the numbers I've seen, like 40 million, 50 million, I just think that's BS, to be honest with you. I think it's been BS since we've been talking about it, and it's BS now because a lot of the rooms just don't need equipment. And what do we call an equipped room now? If we slap a display in it, it's equipped. And so I think
Yeah.
the number is just a kind of a fantasy tam. But the conversation that I was having with him was, he's saying, look, I've got all these people building out all these Microsoft Teams rooms now. It's still going gangbusters. And is it, yes, Microsoft and Cisco are friends, but what gear is being put in? Is Cisco gear being put in? Is Neat gear being put in? Is Logitech gear being put in? So while they all might be one big happy family around Teams or Zoom, they're fighting for market share where the growth is in takeaway. It's not so much in new builds anymore, in my opinion, anyway.
I want to challenge you on your first assertion there about the TAM and the build out of all these rooms. I
Okay.
think that the build out of all these rooms is true. The TAM is what's not the is the point of contention, because it wasn't long ago where rooms had nothing, right? It had a projector that you could plug into your laptop maybe and share some slides with people in the room, and it had a whiteboard or some sort of
Flip
easel.
chart. Yeah,
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
phone.
yeah, and a speakerphone. That's right. And so now almost every room does have a minimal USB type of setup, maybe a $200 TV from Best Buy and a HDMI cord hanging out of it, or USB ideally hanging out of it, and a better speaker saucer. But those things together, maybe you hit $300. And so the TAM isn't quite there. But I think the idea of the video-enabled room is pretty much universal at this point. It's rare to walk into any kind of meeting room with more than two chairs that doesn't have at least some gear in there.
Well, here's where that history we were talking about really comes into play. I remember having conversations as an end user when Polycom flew me down to Austin, about how the voice station, the sound station, excuse me, phone, they were about $1,200 each. And I was saying we just can't afford to scale that many of those phones around the company. And that's when they built the voice station, which was kind of like a squeezed humpback version of it that they could sell for like 800 or $700. We could finally get
Yeah.
under $1,000 price point, and we could scale it a little bit as a financial services company, where we have like
Yeah.
4 rooms on every floor and 40 floors in the building. The device that GN Jabra just announced, it's public at this point now that they've got a Panicast 30, a small huddle room device. They're talking about a video peripheral, so speaker, microphone, HDMI hookup, just not the display, for under $1,000 for the cost of what we used to spend for a smaller phone. So there really isn't
Yeah.
an excuse not to have these in rooms, but how many equipped rooms there are when equipped rooms were 50, 60, $70,000 and a Crestron touch panel and switching gear and it's a completely different world now.
It really is, and that's kind of why the TAM may not have been right because we were multiplying all these rooms times $20,000, and
Exactly.
we got to multiply all these rooms times a couple of hundred, so in that sense, Infocom's over. It's done. There's no reason to go because it's just everything there is at Best Buy, and there's nothing really to see.
Well, that I would debate.
I was expecting you to. Come
Yeah.
on, come on.
Well, as you and I both pointed out, most of the conferences we go to now, while they have some display of technology, it's really and foremost about the networking, about speaking to other peers, what's going on in the industry, what are you hearing, what are you seeing? It's about those hugs of those people who stop me in the hall and what's the latest, what have you heard, and what's happening, the evening events, the presentations, the whisper suites, whisper suites for stuff that we think is outstanding and for stuff that we think is this dog's not going to hunt. But it's for that.
I don't think you're supposed to call them whisper suites after COVID. I think that whole thing went away.
It did. Nobody's whispering anymore. Well, private NDA. In the old days, Tandberg used to have to give you an NDA to see the NDA. That was the joke we used to make, and they hide the room down in the corner somewhere. But I think it's important to see what the innovations are and what the trends are at a show. I can speak to. Thank God, I have good relationships with most of the vendors in the industry, if not all of them, and I can send an email, pick up a phone, do a video call like this, and we can chat with them and say, what's your opinion? What's the latest? What's going on? We tend to be on top of those things, but it's you don't really understand what's happening. You really want to take it all in. What's the common denominator amongst 20 booths or 30 booths? What's the common denominator amongst the top 5 or top 10 people in the industry? What are they talking about? That's how we learned about MDEP. And we're not going to go into what MDEP is right now, but I certainly am going to meet with the MDEP team while I'm at InfoComm and see what their latest is. But that's how we kind of saw the tide going. I would say the same thing for inexpensive rooms. Right now, I in that same article, I came up with a and you see how unsuccessful you've been and how unsuccessful I've been in creating naming for the industry. But I came up with this idea of SACK, which is this concept of these devices that aren't BYOD, but they aren't fully equipped. BYOD, where you would stick a peripheral in a room so you'd have a camera and microphone and speakers, plug it USB in and you'd have it, but you can't really monitor or manage that from an IT standpoint.
Yeah.
And then the build out rooms have the codec built into the device, and they can do Teams, you can reboot them, they can do Zoom, they can do whatever they need to do, but they're expensive. We're coming up with these third middle things that are network manageable, that you can see if they're uptime, downtime. You can see if they need a firmware update, if the camera's working, if the mic's working, but they're still meant for BYOD. They're still meant to process from your notebook. And in some of the cases, like the Barco ClickShare Hub that we love, they'll do a Teams call on device. But if you need to do a Zoom call, you just pick up one of the pucks and you do the Zoom call wirelessly through the same device. So they have some onboard capabilities, but maybe not all the onboard capabilities. And I think we're seeing more and more devices like that. This new Jabra device seems like it'll be like that. That they're compact, but they have intelligence and they have chipsets. And one of the things I'm looking for, I'm not reporting this because I haven't seen it. The show hasn't started yet. One of the things that I'm looking for is what's going on with the price point of these things. Because they've been steadily going down, 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 down to be around the $1,000, $1,500 price point. Is the chip shortage and the issues we're going through in the world going to start moving them up again, that the prices are going to start moving up? I know, I believe Crestron announced a price increase for some of their things, and it's inevitable that
Yeah.
companies are going to announce price increases, I think.
Another thing that's worth noting is the longevity of these devices is increasing. And so there's kind of more of a hand-me-down thing going on. It used to be you had to throw this stuff out after a couple of years because the USB standard changed, or nobody wanted a Microsoft 360 camera anymore, or something along these lines. It just kind of went out the door. But now you've got a couple generations of USB that are working. I mean, I still use you mentioned Jabra, so let me think of it. I got the Jabra, I forget what they called it, the little speaker saucers. I got that maybe 10 years ago. I still love it. And it's still a viable functional device. And so uh, another reason why all these rooms are getting equipment, the hand-me-downs.
Well, it is and it isn't. When we were in the enterprise in the user space, we were talking about for video equipment when the rooms were $50,000. We're talking about a 5 to 7 year depreciation, and the
Yeah.
5 to 7 year depreciation has turned into a consumer depreciation of like a mobile phone, which is, if you're lucky, a year and a half. That you can use it, but it will work for 5 years, but it won't work the same. Like right now, you're using, I believe, the camera in the Cisco Desk Pro. If you were to shift considerably to one side or the other, the camera would pick you up and automatically adjust. That wouldn't have happened in the prior generation of equipment, which would make a terrific shot and work fine, but it wouldn't have that ability, that AI ability to pick up and understand the shot and move with you. So what they're
Yeah,
doing
except for just point of contention correction is I turn off all those features on the
yeah,
Cisco because it's not very good at it. It always keeps you up on the very top of the screen, top of the camera frame, no matter what you
It,
do.
it's
So
it's no, and I'm going to correct you there. It is good at it, but it's designed and programmed and built for rooms. It's not built for sitting in front of a device. It's the same software, which is cool. But the point is now these rooms. When was the last time? I always pick this up when I'm working. I can't find it. What do you know? It's not here. When was the last time you saw one of those rooms here? One of these sitting in a conference room. Green to start the meeting. There's the camera, adjust left, right. You'd walk
I
in.
remember the full-size keyboard thing.
Keyboards, if you're missing it, you can't start your call. It's late because you don't know the control. You walk into rooms now, once the call starts, which is another piece of friction, you're not aiming cameras anymore. I used to, as a consultant, I had to interview like 5 or 6 different companies for a project I was working on, and they all had video conference rooms, and I had video conferencing here, so I was able to sell my services as a consultant, saying I don't have to fly to these companies. I'll just interview them over video, save a lot of money and time. So I would interview them, and I would turn on the video, and I would get a great picture of their ankles. And I had to explain to them, yeah, find the remote or the touch panel, find the camera button, tilt it up, move it forward, make a shot so I can see your face. That doesn't exist for some reason. That gear still works, but
Yeah,
that gear doesn't have the features to do the framing anymore. And that's one of the reasons why I've had a bone to pick with Microsoft, with Zoom, with a couple of the other companies that are all off on the AI world, because those are the kind of feature sets that change the nature of the game that will
yeah,
cause people to replace working gear with better working gear.
yeah.
And we haven't had that kind of innovation in a while. So I'm hoping it's another thing I'm hoping to see at InfoComm is what are the latest
Well,
innovations?
are you going to be doing the Pickets event at InfoComm?
We are.
I,
We're
I mean,
absolutely.
I know without without me as eye candy, it's going to be a little tougher. But
It is. I will admit it is a little easier to record and cue you and let you be the spokesperson than it is for me to set it up and do it myself. But I'll manage. I'll squeeze by. Yes, we've got four companies right now that we've identified that have products and services that are really outstanding that we're going to highlight at the show. And I'm hoping there'll be a few others that we can find that again, two different reasons that we want people to stop by and see them at the show, so they should be looking for this tag that says this is something that we think you should stop and see and really work out. But we also want to say that these companies have participated in the showcase so that they can get their message above the noise floor. There's usually a very loud noise floor at these shows of companies saying, look at us, look at us, look at us. And this is an opportunity for organizations to participate in the showcase to get their messaging above the noise floor.
Are there any, have you been briefed on any big announcements?
I have been briefed on a couple. Some of them are NDA until the show. The Jobber one that we talked about, their Panicast 30. When you and I were together when Josh Blaylock was with them, he's not with them anymore. He's now with Shure, showing us the new 40, which was a $1,500 device. So, they've gone from the 50 to the 40 now to the 30. At some point they'll have, the Panicast 3, which fits on your pinky. But that's something that we've been briefed on. There are this is gonna poke the bear territory. We've talked for years and years and years that companies want devices sitting in their rooms that they can use to do a Teams call or a Zoom call or a WebEx call or a Google Meet call. And while the various component manufacturers are now allowing that, they're not really allowing app switching, which we know works on mobile phones, and it works in labs. But business wise, Microsoft doesn't want to have anybody be able to switch to Zoom, and they'll give 20 legitimate reasons for that. I'm not going to argue that with them, but that's what everybody wants. You'd have to reboot it and change it. I'm starting to see companies working with app hubs, like with Neat Open, or with
Yep.
the Abacore board or some other types of boards where you can invoke the app and then all of a sudden be able to switch. So is Microsoft going to come down on them? There's been an interesting conversation between Microsoft and Mago, which is doing this online. Airtame is another one that's doing something like this. And, I could have seen 5, 10 years ago when Zoom and Teams were fighting for market share that they really wanted to prevent that. You know what? People are using what they're going to use now. There isn't that much switching that's going on anymore. Everybody wants to be able to be compatible for everything. I'd rather see them compete on features and just give up this inability to switch. And
Well,
they're
now the new battle isn't so much the video, it's the notes. And so
that's the note.
people want to have that automated note taking into their work stream, you have to be able to count on it being there. And so it's like,
Zoom's
no, I insist they
latest
use my
version,
button.
Zoom 7.0.2 was the latest a couple of weeks ago when I loaded it. When I do anything on my computer that has a microphone, like if I'm trying to dictate into an AI platform or something, or if I'm on a Teams call, a Zoom window will pop up in the corner of my screen and take the notes so that all the notes will live on Zoom. Now, frankly, personally, I don't use that right now yet, but that's going to be the battle for the
It's
note.
not reliable enough yet, and what I mean by reliable is that it's going to be there because I've been in several, and I'll use Zoom as an example. I've been in several Zoom meetings and that I am not hosting. And I try to turn on automated note taking, and it says host is disabled, and it's just like, I thought that they had fixed that, but as long as it's not reliable, you can't if you can't depend on it, you can't work it into your workflow.
And I
So I think,
recently reviewed a product, a wearable. There are going to be more of the wearables. Plod is one. This memo kit that I saw is another one. Where if I'm in a coffee shop meeting with you, and I want to turn on, notes for us, I don't want to take my device and dump it on the phone and have it be recording. I want to be able to, oh, Dave, you just mentioned something. Let me find the email, or let me go into some. I want to use this as my functional device. I don't want to give it up to the meeting. So the idea of having a wearable that does the recording, and then when our coffee chat is over, just linking it and it can go into anything. I think that's going to be probably more of the way people will function around these automatic notes.
yeah. But you know what's kind of interesting about you mentioned earlier the keynotes. There's kind of been a separation almost. You've got Microsoft and Cisco typically talking about their latest innovations at a place like Enterprise Connect. Um, and then you had a place like InfoComm and ISE that was more focused on the devices. And it was kind of this weird thing because in fact, not all the meeting platform vendors are at InfoComm and ISE, and so it's like this. They're separating the value prop, and so I kind of like the idea that Cisco and Zoom are going to be doing keynotes there because now you've got the device vendors and the software platforms at the same time. I think I don't know if Zoom's going to be there. I hope they are, or if Google Meet's going to be there or whatever. But it'd be nice
Well,
to bring
in
that
this
back.
case, they will all be there. I don't know who's going to be presenting what, but this is a case where to my knowledge, nobody's boycotting the show because I've seen enough invitations to after parties and heard about
There
things
you
going
go.
on that people will be around. But if you really want to understand what happened at InfoComm, what do you think people should do?
Well, certainly follow everything you'll be posting.
And subscribe to our insider report, of course.
Yes. Well,
Are we
that
still
that
are
goes
we
that
still
goes that
offering
goes
this?
without saying. I mean, anybody who wants to know about anything, well, in our industry should be subscribing.
Do we
Um,
still want to offer a special deal for anybody who actually watches the show and reads this and reaches out to me?
No, you blew it, man. Actually, what I've been telling people lately is if the price is too high or if it's not, if you need it, whatever, to just reach out to us, and we'll see what we can do for you because
I agree.
I think it's some of our best content. I mean, I know a lot goes into it every month, and there's just a lot of stuff in there. So um, I would love for more people to read it. That'd be fantastic.
So, last word, Dave. Well, I'm going to be gallivanting around Vegas again for the fifth time this year, and I'm not done yet. At a conference. You doing anything in June?
In June, I've got the very first week of June at the 8x8 analyst event back in California. And as of now, I think that might be my only event. Oh, no, but at the end of the month, I'll probably be going to the InfoBit in Croatia analyst event. Um, they're almost equal distance from where I'm at in Europe. And so yeah, either way, long journey. I was looking at the flights to Croatia, and it was like there was one flight that's like 6 hours. Then every other flight was 24 hours because you missed the layovers or missed the connections. Not easy to get there. Um,
Well, Dave, good chatting with you. Thank you for spending the time here, and thank you for passing the torch to me for InfoComm. And we'll see how that one works out as a solo. And I might grab a couple of analysts here or there along the way, but we'll see how that works out. And thank you very much for watching the show as you do every week. We'll see you next week. Take care.